WGN News.
Typically, on the first Friday of a new month, we get a jobs report from the previous month. But due to the government shutdown, September's report did not get released. So what's the impact of that? Tom Gimbel joins me now by Zoom to talk about the importance of the jobs report. Hello, Tom.
Emphasis on by Zoom, Micah. You're hurting my feelings.
Sorry.
Okay.
We'll talk about that next time. But first of all, a lot of people don't really pay a lot of attention to the jobs report unless it directly affects them or someone they know. Tell us how important that jobs report is.
I think more people do than not. I think for not all of the data that goes into the Bureau of Labor Statistics report, but I think people look at a couple key things, and that is, number one, the unemployment rate, and that is whether jobs were added or whether we lost jobs, and what the numbers are. So I think those two are really the big ones, and I think some of us jobs nerds look at a couple other data points as well. But this is important because the data usually, what people knock at, Micah, they say, well, there's always corrections on previous months. And that's true. It's very hard to track the data so quickly. However, and this is, I know this is going to sound funny, but it's consistently inconsistent, which means we know that these problems exist, and every month it gets corrected, which makes it kind of okay. And to just stop the flow of data, I think that's a real detriment to the labor market.
So right now we're clueless as to what the September jobs report looks like. And how does this affect the economy?
Well, I don't know if I'd say we're clueless. There's a couple good reports out there. ADP has a report every month that's a good report. My friend John Challenger at his firm Challenger Gray and Christmas, they have a report. There are different ones that analyze different pockets of data that provide really good information that we can turn to use to supplement this. But it's definitely not as much data as the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics report. So we are missing something. And I think what we're going to, it feels like things are being hidden from us, and that's not healthy.
So people at home who really want to know, and who knows how long this shutdown will take place, and may go into the next month, and we just don't know, where do you think they should look at different places, these different places that you're mentioning?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the advantages of technology is we can so quickly have access to information, whether it's using ChatGPT or just a good old-fashioned Google search. We can look and find different sources of the data and try to create our own commonality and find the midpoint of what we think is accurate numbers. But again, there has to be some level of trust with the government in all capacities. And if we stop getting information shared with us to make our own educated decision, then we have to question what's going on. And for me, this is really frustrating because, as you know, my experience for 30 years in the jobs business is it is employment that drives the economy. Right. And that is whether it's hourly or salaried, white collar, blue collar. It's the creation of jobs, and in bad times, the loss of jobs, that really dictates the mindset and reality of the U.S. economy.
Well, the good thing is, like you said, all is not lost. They can look at these other resources to get the information. Let's talk quickly about the National Guard. We know they've been called up at various places. And what happens with them as far as their employers are concerned when they are called up to serve?
So like anything else where you're called by the government, the corporations have to hold your job or a job of similar salary level and responsibility for you. What they don't have to do is they don't have to pay you while you're gone. You're getting a government subsidy during that time, and they don't have to pay you. Now, I would challenge that and say that I think the majority of really good employers continue to pay people when they're called up in situations like that that's beyond the employee's control.
Most likely is that there a significant drop in pay for that over where folks are probably working?
Oh, if the company didn't pay him and you were purely relying on your stipend from the government, most people, I think, would have a drop in salary. I don't know exactly what the National Guard stipend is, but my guess is it's a lot lower than what a lot of people are making in their job that they do, the other 50 weeks of the year. And again, this isn't something that they chose to do. They're called up by the government. And again, these are people that give now this is an interesting situation. I'm not trying to get directly political because usually it's overseas and to defend our country against foreign enemies, that these people have risked their lives for this country. And I think you can really tell a lot about a company by how they stand behind their employees. The same thing if you're called for jury duty or you're called in the National Guard. Those things are to serve your fellow man. Interesting.
Thank you, Tom. Hopefully you'll be in-house next week.
I look forward to being back on the couch next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.